Jim Gattel. Chris, are you familiar with the great man theory of history? Here is how it works. Some people say that if Hitler did not exist, someone else would have done the same thing, while others say nonsense. Without him, Germany would have had a leader who would not have invaded Poland or started a Holocaust, but merely retaken some lost territory and then signed a new peace deal with England and France. Here is how it applies to cults. People say that if LRH never existed, those Cybots would have fallen for the next con man or cult leader who came by because they are so stupid and mentally ill. It's obvious to me as a viewer of your channel that they are not stupid or mentally ill, and if they had joined naturopathy or vegetarianism instead of Scientology, things would have been different. What say you? Hey, thanks for the question, Jim. Good one. I do not subscribe to the great man of history or the great man theory of history. I've not heard of it until you mentioned it in this question. Funny, as I was literally putting the questions into the queue, I saw someone else referred to the great man theory or something in some other context, but I didn't even have time to look that up. But just based on what you've asked me in your question, I will say no. I don't believe that is true. Because it smacks of fate or kismet or something or karma. And I don't think those things are real. The universe is a random place. Things happen for completely inexplicable reasons that have all kinds of consequences and ripple effects and things that cause us to do things and other people to do things. And there are thousands of factors at play in every single one of our decisions. Every one of them. Thousands. And if you sat and listed them all out, you could figure it out and count them all out and work it up as to what all those factors are. We categorize them and simplify them in terms of genes, environment, education, culture, upbringing. These are ways we sort of meta-categorize all the things, all these different factors. But if you really broke them all down, thousands, okay? Every decision, every second of every day, that's what's going on up here. You are only aware of a couple of those factors that enter into what we call your consciousness, right, or your awareness. And this is all the subject of a lot of attention and a lot of science figuring out how all this works and what all the systems are and how the brain functions. But we know that these factors are real and that they exist. So to say that if you were to go back and on a timeline and remove one of those factors, like a whole person, L. Ron Hubbard, let's say, you pull him out of the mix, okay, so there's no L. Ron Hubbard. So all the things in L. Ron Hubbard's life now did not happen the same way. All the people who knew him do not know him and operate, and their lives are completely changed. All the planes he flew, ships he captained, oceans he sailed on, Sea Org members he abused, Scientologists he conned, papers he wrote, lectures he gave, lecture halls that he rented, like all of that stuff goes away. And that radically changes, to one degree or another, all of history. I mean, if you think of the entire world, Scientology never happens in it. My whole life is completely different. Everybody's life who it touched is completely different. So when you look at the number of changes, the millions and millions of factors that you're affecting when you take one person out of an equation, or a timeline, I should say, to assert with any degree of authority or certainty that someone else is going to fill that gap and it's going to be somebody of the same character and nature? Come on, how do you even begin to assert something like that? It's an interesting theory. As far as I can tell, unless you can time travel, there's absolutely no way to prove it unless you can set up alternative timelines. But even in a theoretical sense, it seems to me that it falls apart right away if you look at the number of factors that actually influence why and how people act and behave the way they do. So that's why I say, nah, come on, that's a gross oversimplification. And as you mentioned, Jim, in your question, it also rationalizes it rationalizes calling people stupid and mentally ill because they made a bad decision or a bad choice based on the best available information they had at the time. This is where the hindsight bias and the second guessing and the frankly the judgment right, of people who, by other people, right, non-cult members, people who didn't experience what the cult members did. The judgments on these are just unbelievably harsh and way overblown. I mean, people who think that they are so smart and are never going to be conned and advertisements don't work on me, propaganda doesn't work on me. Man, give me a break. You have no idea what you're talking about. People who say that stuff, I mean, let's just be blunt. They have no idea what they're talking about. The good news about that is that a little bit of education, just a little bit, and they change their tune right away. It's not hard to deal with this. I've been doing it for years. So, and that's really fortunate. I'm really happy about that. I've changed a lot of people's minds on this particular point. So anyway, Jim, thanks for the question. And I hope that answer, you asked what I thought. That's what I think.